I begin, Your Honor?
All right, go ahead.
Ms. Harris, you are still under oath from yesterday. And I believe we left off here on July 3rd, the evening of July 3rd. At 10:52, what is that icon?
This is a representation of the cell site location of Scott Farris's cell phone.
So the first...
I'm sorry.
Can you move the microphone a little bit closer to you?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the first call up there on the top.
That is a phone call from Melody Farris to Scott Farris at 10:52 p.m. and it lasted 1 minute and 5 seconds in duration.
And that's on her personal cell phone, the one that she communicates with family on.
Correct.
And that is where the phone's location is when that call is taken from
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Okay. That's Scott's phone number
Correct.
in this pink section here?
Yes.
Okay. All right, at 11:28, what are we looking at there?
This is a phone call from Melody to Rusty on the 1987 phone, and it lasts 4 minutes and 58 seconds.
Okay, and that's about 40 minutes after she talks to Scott, right? Okay, then at 11:30, what do we have there?
This is a phone call from Scott to Melody at 11:30 p.m. And no duration.
No duration. What does that typically mean?
The phone call did not connect.
And what are we looking at here down in the bottom, this map?
Again, this is the location of Scott Farris's telephone during that attempted call at 11:30 p.m.
And that's within, and the Purcell Lane is within that tower.
That's correct.
So at 10:52, the phone's location is in the pink up there, and then by 11:30, it appears he's in the area of the home.
That's correct.
And what is this slide?
This is a call at 11:34 p.m. Melody to Scott, and it lasts 4 minutes and 10 seconds.
And that below is Scott's phone's location, which the home appears to be within that location.
Correct.
All right, let's start at the bottom here. Well, hang on, let's go back. So this is about 10 minutes later. What's this bottom call right here?
This is a phone call at 11:45 p.m. on July 3rd. This is Melody calling Rusty, and it lasts 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 5 seconds.
At 11:45, okay. So the graph above it, it's titled Melody's Activity. Can you tell the jury what they're looking at?
This is a graph showing activity markers for the time span of 6 o'clock p.m. to 11:48 p.m. on July 3rd. The two different colors show different types of measurement of activity that are found in the cell phone extraction of Melody Farris.
And it ended at 11:48. So while this phone call was being made, is that just when the measurement ended?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So now we're in the early morning of July 4th at 12:14 a.m. What is this?
This is a message from a short message service from the number 611612 code. I'm sorry, it's a message to Melody from 2166 message service for Straight Talk Wireless.
And that is that 611612 the content of that message?
Correct.
Okay. I know there's a couple of numbers, so I wanted to delineate. So the 21663 is essentially the number that the phone is communicating with, and then the 611612 is the content of that message.
Correct.
Okay. And then what's the next message down there in the middle?
So again, at 12:14, it's another message, and this is from the short message service for Straight Talk Wireless to Melody, in which it states, for more info about Straight Talk Wireless, Straight Talk services or products, please visit http://straighttalk.com or call 1-877-430-2355.
Which phone were these messages on?
Any text message would be on the personal family phone. So these are on the personal phone.
Okay. And then the phone call at 12:15 is on which phone?
Also the personal family phone, 9029.
Okay. And this phone call with Rusty is about an hour and 14 minutes. which would end, not great at math, almost at 1 a.m. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
So this is while she's on the other phone with Rusty.
Correct.
And we're still on the early morning of July 4th. This is the second call to Straight Talk at 12:20.
Correct.
And then the next the next message at 12:24 from Straight Talk, confirmation. Thank you for adding airtime.
Correct.
What are we looking at 12:24 a.m.?
This is a email that is found in the phone extraction of Gary Farris's telephone. It is a notification from his bank, which he was receiving alerts for from Wells Fargo, in which it's an alert stating there was a transaction to Straight Talk airtime in the amount of $36.28.
And that went to Gary's email address and you found this alert in his cell phone extraction.
Correct.
Okay. In the cell phone extraction for his email account, when you were looking for this financial alert, did any other financial alerts involving Straight Talk appear?
They did not.
This was the only Straight Talk alert that you found in Gary's email.
Correct.
And can you read that card number for me into the record?
Card ending in 0078.
And then at 2:20 a.m., what do we have there?
This is a call from Melody to Rusty, lasting duration 35 minutes, 47 seconds.
So that ends about 2:55 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. All right. What are we looking at 5:52 a.m.?
This is a location of Gary Farris's handset based upon the Google location records. This is the date of July 4th, 2018, and the time is 5:52 a.m. And the radius shown here, the certainty that Google provides of this location is 11 meters.
So that covers a portion of outside and then a portion of the house. That bottom portion looks like it kind of covers this back area right there.
Correct.
6:12, what do we have there?
This is a call, 6:12 a.m., Scott Farris to Melody Farris, lasting 9 seconds in duration.
And the morning of at 6:21, morning of July 4th, what is this?
Again, this is an alert notification from Wells Fargo to Gary's email. And this is an alert stating the card ending in 0078 was used at a ATM location in Freehome for the amount of $80.
And at 6:24, what are we looking at there?
Again, this is a handset precision location of Gary Farris's device. This is at 6:24 a.m. and the certainty of this location is 31 meters.
And so a large portion of that is the woods, and then it barely touches the side of the house. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
And at 6:29, what do we have right there?
This is a call from Melody Farris to Rusty for the duration of 20 seconds at 6:29 on July 4th.
On the 1987 phone.
Correct.
And so that was at 6:29 a.m., 20 seconds, and then at 6:30, what do we have there?
We have another call, Melody to Rusty, and this is 59 minutes and 44 seconds in duration.
And at 6:32, we moved to some of Scott's conversations. What do we have there?
This is a text message thread located in Scott's phone extraction. This is Scott to Ted at 6:32 a.m. saying, "Y'all up."
And then Scott says what? Well, Ted says what?
Ted replies at 6:34, "Yes, sir."
And then what does Scott say?
Scott replies at 6:34, "I'm on my way."
What are we looking at 6:37 a.m.?
This again is a Google precision location of Gary Farris's device at 6:37. You see the lines coming from this area. This is showing repeat measures of this device at these different times of 6:37, 6:43, and 7:21, all in the same 11-meter certainty.
Were there more, I don't know what you call them. What do you call like this point?
This is The circle within the circle is the exact latitude and longitude provided in the records for the Google location.
So you listed 3. Were there more than 3 for that location?
In this time frame, there were not.
Okay, so the time frame between 6:37 and 7:20, these are the 7:21. These are the only 3.
Correct.
Okay. And then beyond 7:21, were there more?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we kind of go back to Scott, and at 6:40, tell the jury what they're looking at here on this slide.
This is showing Scott's cell site location for his device at 6:40 a.m. and at 6:46 a.m. And the tower here, as you can see, it's showing you that pi, the sector of the tower, the face of the tower that this call was transmitted from. This call text message data point of the device, some transmission, in which these 2 transmissions occur at 6:40 a.m. and 6:46 a.m. And on the right-hand side is drive time to the physical location of that cell tower. And I mapped it back to this exact day and time. And just to show, typically, drive time to that tower location is typically, we'll say 8 to 14 minutes away from the location of the residence.
So at the latest, Scott left the house at 6:32. Is that the latest, if we're talking shortest amount of time to get to that location?
Based upon that calculation.
The 8 to 12 minutes, okay. And then he hits at 6:40. 6 minutes later, he's in a different sector in a different tower further away in Sawney Mountain.
Correct.
Okay, at 7:58 through 9:05, what are we looking at there?
This is showing, again, the Google location, precision location of Gary's handset during these times. And they do overlap based upon the certainty of the meters provided. So at 7:58, we have an 11-meter precision location. The next data point is at 8:21, which is much larger at 21 meters. And then the next data point is at 9:05 a.m., which is 10 meters.
So for this time frame, were there more data points than the 3 that you're showing?
These are the only ones during this time frame.
Okay. And on the right side, what are we showing the jury there?
This is phone activity, phone calls. At 8:17 a.m., Melody calls Rusty, and they speak for 2 minutes, 17 seconds. And again at 9:03 a.m., Melody to Rusty for 10 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay, so on the left side, you have 9:05 to 11:16. Is that the only data point for that time frame for Gary's handset?
Again, yes, these are repeat data points with the same certainty during that time frame.
And on the right side, what are you showing there?
This is phone activity. This is at 9:13 a.m. Amanda to Melody on the personal family phone, calling. They speak for 3 minutes and 54 seconds. At 9:17, Melody calls Rusty on the 1987 phone for 3 minutes and 34 seconds. Again at 10:18 a.m. on the 1987 phone, Melody calls Rusty for 3 minutes and 49 seconds. And again at 10:39, Melody calls Rusty for 6 minutes and 21 seconds.
Okay, and we're still on the morning of July 4th at 11:28. What is this?
This is a call from Melody to Rusty at 11:28 a.m. for 19 minutes and 7 seconds.
And Amanda texts Melody and says what at 11:28 a.m.?
We are headed towards the house to gather our things, and we're going to head to the islands.
What does Melody say back?
Okay, gotta get a quick shower, been working.
Amanda to Melody in the bottom.
Okay, Addison keeps texting Cameron.
Melody to Amanda at 11:39 a.m.
Call you in a few.
Okay. So the bottom half of this screen, you're showing what?
This is at 11:43 a.m. Gary's handset precision location moved from the previous that you saw to this location.
So this 9:05 location, it moved. That's at 9:05, and then this is few hours later, it moved to that location.
From 9:05 to 11:16 a.m.
Oh, was that the range of the other
Right.
one?
Right
Okay,
here.
this location.
From
I see.
9:05 to 11:16, the device continuously hits in this location with the same amount of certainty that you see depicted there.
And then,
From 11:43 to 6:24 p.m. on July 4th, this is the repeat location with the same amount of certainty.
why do you have an asterisk after 6:24 p.m.?
This is the last data point of location from Google for Gary's device at 6:24 p.m.
Ever.
Correct.
So does that mean, what are the possibilities of why that would end?
The phone battery could have died. The handset cannot reach any signals at this point or any transmissions.
Like powered off or died, or some reason it's just not getting any signals?
Correct.
So like would airplane mode do that?
No transmission to the device of
Okay.
any sort of location services at this point.
Okay. 12:05 on July 4th. What do we start with there?
This is a call from Scott to Melody for 2 minutes and 31 seconds.
And then Amanda sends, it looks like Amanda sends Melody her location.
Correct.
And then what is the message that goes along with that location?
At 12:10, Amanda says to Melody, parked by the pier where we always walk in, tap on my location and your phone GPS will take you there.
And at 12:11, what does Melody say?
Alrighty, I'll try it. I'm not tech savvy.
12:12, Amanda back.
Haha, it will open when you press it, then hit go.
And then she sends her another message.
So it's 15 to get on the island, 10 to get to beach access because it's the holiday.
Okay. And then Melody says to Amanda at 12:20.
Okay.
All right. And then at 12:28,
Melody calls Rusty for a duration of 21 minutes, 13 seconds.
12:29, conversation continues with Amanda.
Amanda tells Melody, bring a chair if you have one. We're running back to the house to get ours. A lot more people, but we got a nice spot with the pop-up tent.
Okay. And then Melody says what?
Don't think I have one.
12:31.
You have that lounger. It's heavy though. We will have 3. Cameron can sit on the sand. Ha.
And that's Amanda to Melody.
Correct.
What do we have at 12:45 p.m.?
Addie sent a text message to Melody at 12:45 p.m. Is a sleepover at your house tonight still on?
Melody says it looks like accidentally to Amanda.
Melody says to Amanda at 12:46, yes, sweetie, it's fine.
And then, sorry, meant for Addison. And then actually replies to Addison.
Yes.
Okay, yes, sweetie, it is 12:46. Addison, what does she say back to Melody?
Okay, great.
12:47.
This is an indication in Melody's device that the Maps application is initiated.
And Amanda texts Melody at 1:01.
They are asking if they can go to your house tonight. Told Chris that was your decision.
What does Melody say back?
Told Addison yes.
Okay, and then Melody to Amanda at 1:16.
Stopped at Target to get chair.
Okay. And what are we looking at here for 1:16 p.m.?
This is the location, the cell site location of the 1987 telephone at 1:16 p.m. in which the tower is located over the Beaufort Highway area.
Up towards the lake
Correct.
and away from the property.
Correct.
Okay. So this is for the 4th. It looks like from 7:24 a.m. to 2:44 p.m. What are we looking at here?
Again, these are activity measurements during this time frame in which, the graph has peaks and valleys showing indications of activity.
Okay. So there's a couple of peaks around 9:23 a.m. and then 10:15-ish a.m. Okay, what are we looking at on this slide? This looks like Scott's activity from 9 p.m. on the 3rd to July 4th at 7 a.m.
Yes, these are activity measurements for Scott's device found in his cell phone extraction for the time frame of July 3rd, 9 p.m. to July 4th at 7 a.m.
So we know that the call to Melody was at 11:34. That was in the area of the home.
Correct.
And then doesn't look like we really see activity again until about 5:52 a.m.
Correct.
And then what are we looking at here?
This is Scott Farris's activity measurements from July 4th to July 5th morning, 8 p.m. on July 4th to 10 a.m. on July 5th.
So about between 11:24 and it looks like 12 a.m. no activity until the morning around 8:22 a.m.
Correct.
What are we looking at here?
This is just a record from Gary Farris's email records within his cell phone extraction, in which emails were indicated as read or unread. This shows the last status of read in the device was at 2:05 p.m. on July 3rd, 2018.
And we know that his phone location had him going out to dinner between, I would say, around the hours of like 8 and 9 p.m. So he doesn't read any of those either, right? So they remain unread up till about 9 p.m. But then the rest are also unread, and
Correct.
they go all the way to July 4th at 11:09 a.m.
Correct. These are all in the status of unread in the device.
Okay, Ms. Harris, what are we looking at on this side?
So I conducted an analysis of the communication between Melody and Rusty, and in particular, I focused my efforts on the time span of July 2nd to July 5th, based upon the information in the investigation, and I went to a further time span in the telephone relationship to see if there was anything that was odd or uncommon within this time frame per the investigation and the totality of their communication. So I noticed these hours of 11 p.m. to about almost 3 a.m. In the totality of their communication were odd, or outliers, if you will. So I pulled all calls between Melody and Rusty for 6 months, and I created this graph that places the frequency of the calls by time of day. So as you see here, in the hour of 9 a.m., there's 295 calls in that 6-month period.
So the small number on each dot is the number of calls that appear around that time.
In the totality of that 6-month
In the
time
totality of the 6 months, okay.
That's correct.
So I want to go down here to this box, and I think that says 13.
Correct.
And what time frame is that?
That is military time for 11 o'clock p.m.
So 2300.
Correct.
Okay. And then you have a red box around 0, which is midnight.
Correct.
Okay. And then that number is 3.
Correct.
And then 1 right before 1 a.m. and 1 right before 2 a.m.
Right
Is that
at 2 a.m. Yes, right.
okay?
And the time at the bottom here for the hour of the day is in Eastern time. That Rusty and Melody were in 2 different time zones. So this is from the analysis of Melody's records in Eastern time zone.
So our time zone.
Correct.
So the total number of the calls in the red is what?
Let's see, 18.
Okay. Are these all 18 of those calls?
This is each of those 18
Contacts.
During that time span of 11 p.m. to 3 a.m.
So you have all of those 18 that were in the red, you pulled them together and just listed them right here.
In the red boxes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to see if there was anything common on these days of why this contact is different at these times of nights.
So the bottom 3, what dates were those?
Those are 2 on July 3rd, 1 on July 4th, 2018.
What are the times for the July 3rd calls?
23:28 or 11:28 p.m., 23:45 or 11:45 p.m., and 2:20 a.m. on July 4th.
So the call at 11:28 p.m. was about 5 minutes, 4 minutes and 58 seconds.
Correct.
So that's the duration of the call. And then the next call was an hour and 14 minutes.
Yes.
And then the last one on July 4th was 35 minutes.
Correct.
What are we looking at here?
So this is sort of a breakdown of the analysis of what you just saw. In that 6-month time span of January 2018 to July 5th, 2018, there was 3,478 contacts total between Melody and Rusty.
Contacts. So that includes text and call.
Any contact, yes.
Okay.
And this is total contacts in that amount of time frame. And then it's breaking down to those 18 that happen between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., in which 3 of those 18 calls take place July 3rd and July 4th, and only 1 call out of the total 3,478 calls total in that 6-month time frame ever took place after 12:05 a.m., which that call took place on July 4th, 2018.
At 2:20 a.m.
At 2:20 a.m.
What are we looking at here?
Again, this is another breakdown of the total contacts between the 6-month time frame between Melody and Rusty on the 1987 phone, in which 18 of those 3,478 took place in that 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. And this is going to break down those 18 further and the amount of minutes in which the call lasted. So the 3 that took place on July 3rd and the 1 that took place on July 4th in totality equaled 114 minutes, and the rest of those 15 calls of the 18 totaled 92 minutes in duration. Totality.
So the 15 combined were 92 minutes.
Right.
And then the 3 for the 3rd and 4th combined were 114 minutes.
That's correct.
What are we looking at on this slide?
So this is a scatter plot of, again, all activity calculated for a year's time span that was derived from Melody Farris's phone extraction. I looked at 1 year of data of health information that was provided in the phone, and I again looked for any potential outliers based upon the activity. And there was over, between the hour of 11 p.m. and 12 a.m., there was 28 days out of the 361 days that I received data points in the health activity. So out of those 361 days, 28 days, there was some measurement of activity that took place between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. within her device. This scatter
These are
plot,
all those 28 days.
this represents those 28 days
Okay.
and the activity scale based upon where the dot is. And this helped me identify, again, any outliers.
And so you have 9/7/2017 and 9/30/2017 appear higher up on the plot.
Correct.
So the arrow is going up, so that's more activity. And then were you able to determine what those dates signified? The 7th and the 30th?
Sure. So in analysis, why is this odd? So with this, I took these outliers and I went back and I researched within the data I have in the phones, and I wanted to know what happened on September 7th of 2017. Why so much activity? So within the data found in the phone from various sources, it was this on 9/7/2017. The device has very little telephone activity, and when I'm talking about device extraction, I'm only speaking about the family phone 9029. It's the only extraction I had for Melody Farris. So the days prior to September 7th, no phone activity at all. On September 7th, 2017, the phone connects to a Wi-Fi in the name of hedonism, and the Wi-Fi, it was a public Wi-Fi for the resort of the Hedonism Resort in Jamaica.
So the device was connecting to a Wi-Fi in Jamaica on
Correct.
the 7th. Okay,
Yes.
and then what about the 30th?
On the 30th, I went back and looked at the timeline of phone calls and text messages and photos within the device and determined on September 30th, 2017, it appeared that Melody Farris was in Nashville. I believe there was a baby shower the next day. This was a Saturday, and messages indicate potentially going out in Nashville with Amanda
Okay. On the 30th.
on the 30th.
Okay, and then we have July 3rd, 2 nights before Gary's remains were found.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Harris, when you looked at the cell tower dumps, you're able to search phone numbers within the tower dumps?
I am.
Did you search Chris Farris's phone number in those tower dumps?
I did.
And between, we'll say, the night of the 3rd going into the 4th, did you find his number in those tower dumps?
So Chris Farris's phone will show in the tower dump, but it's never, if you remember we talked about the target, it's never the one that's in the location of the cell site of the towers that were dumped. It's one being called by someone in a location. So his phone will appear, but he is not the device within that cell tower location.
So let's say if Gary called him, his number
That's
showed
correct.
up. And then if Amanda called him, his number showed up.
That is correct. That 353 and 351 call
On the 3rd?
on July 3rd, back and forth Gary and Chris, those show up within the tower based upon Gary Farris's location and the attempt to call him.
And then when was Amanda's call to Chris?
It was around noon, I believe, on July 5th.
Okay, and between those 3 calls, no, his number doesn't show up at all
That's correct.
in those tower dumps. And that's if you use the phone in the location.
Right, the phone has to be used to receive that location. If there's no activity on the phone, no calls being made, it would not show up in the tower.
But ultimately, the only times his number shows up when he was being called by someone in that location.
That's correct.
Okay, Ms. Harris, that's all I have for you.
Great.
Good morning. Was it Commander?
Yes.
Good morning, Commander Harris. I'm John Luke Weaver, and I, along with Michael Ray, represent Melody Farris. I want to talk to you about this slide right here. So you've created this slide, yes?
That's correct.
All right. And so, and Your Honor, I'm going to have to kind of go back and forth with the Elmo. If we
Let me know.
Can we go ahead and switch to the Elmo?
All right.
But I'm going to start with Defendants Harris 15. And do you remember this document? Do you know what this is?
Yes, this appears to be the geofence return.
Okay. And there are identifying numbers for a device, and that would be this column here, yes?
Correct.
Okay. And this is not Gary Farris's device.
That's correct.
All right. That would have been, was it Addison or
One of the others.
one of the others? Okay. But this number, this 211, the identifying number of Gary Farris's phone, yes?
Well, that's the anonymized deciphering code that Google uses. But yes, when that was in phase 3 of the geofence, when that was decoded, it is Gary's account, correct?
That's the thumbprint.
Correct.
Okay, just the identifier of that phone. Anonymized. I don't speak that language. but-
Okay, it's a specific set of numbers that Google uses
Sure.
to pinpoint a device without telling us the device,
But
phone number, or Gmail account.
that is to Google Gary Farris's phone.
Yes, in step 3 of the Google Fence return, that is when
That's it. That's his phone.
This,
Okay.
Yes.
So then Google gave you all of these latitude and longitudinal coordinates, yes?
Correct.
And so in different ways. So and I'll flip the page. This page shows a number of Wi-Fi coordinates. I'll zoom in. And certain times. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Flip the page. More Wi-Fi coordinates, corresponding times on July the 3rd through July the 4th. And then we see about midway down this page that it switches over to GPS coordinates, yes?
Appears so, yes.
Okay, so this is the raw data that you used to create your PowerPoint presentation, right?
So I used the Google return for his Gmail account.
Right?
So that appears to be the geofence because it has those other accounts on it.
Okay.
So I used
Just Google.
his Google return, right?
The Google return Gmail account,
Absolutely, yes.
not this, but there's other ways of determining where his phone is as well, right? Through those.
So both records
Yes.
should correlate.
Okay, good. But you didn't, and I noticed that you did not use the Wi-Fi coordinates in this PowerPoint, correct?
You know, both were used, I believe, as far as GPS or Wi-Fi, depending on the time of the transaction.
Okay. Well, let's talk. Well, depending on the time, but let's talk about this. What would these be?
Well, I would have to look at the raw record and match it up to this time.
Oh, sure, absolutely. May I approach your?
Thank you.
You told us that at the beginning of the trial, but habit.
So this is July 3rd, 8/28, which is 2028. So the 8/28 point there is indeed a Wi-Fi source.
That's a Wi-Fi source.
Correct.
Okay.
Based upon the record.
Well, so what about 8:30? Could that possibly be? I mean, up through 8:40, I don't imagine you could still be on the Wi-Fi that far away. That's a number of miles, is it not?
Well, so exactly. So your records here, again, being the geofence,
Sure.
at 8:30, that moved outside of the geofence, so it's not on this record.
So then your GPS, or what are you using?
Well, the record states it's using Wi-Fi.
Okay. But there are some GPS coordinates in that record.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm asking you for this jury,
Sure.
when you created this, because you created this image out of data somewhere.
Correct.
So it's both Wi-Fi and then it's also GPS, or
It's completely based on what the record is.
okay,
But I can't confirm what 8:30 is with this.
okay,
I would need the Google return raw record to show you the source of 8:30.
okay. All right, but not for this. This is the wrong record for that.
This is the raw record for the geofence. So
Okay.
once those points go outside of the virtual fence, that record does not show them.
Okay. So you got coordinates by time, and this is what came back. In this Gmail location between 8:30 p.m. and 8:40 p.m. on the 3rd.
So yes, these are depictions of certain data points during this time frame.
Longitude, latitude.
Longitude, latitude, and a certainty marker.
Okay. Similar to this document, but not this document, is what you did it with.
Correct. Those only are in the area of the fence.
Of
again.
the fence around the house.
Correct.
Okay. So we're outside the fence.
Absolutely. Which,
Yeah. There we go. This one right here.
yes.
So between 8:40 and 9:21, Gary Farris's phone did not move from this location.
That is correct. That is a precision location during that time, between that 8:40 to 9:21.
Now I noticed, for your other PowerPoints, you did like meters and how within the precision. I don't
Correct.
see it on this one.
Yeah. Absolutely. I should have indicated the meters there, but if you have the raw record, I can tell you the meters.
I don't know where the raw
Okay.
record is. But this is similar style that you used in the other images that we saw around the house and the burn pile.
That's correct.
Okay. But where is this?
So this is in the area of Free Home. I looked up this shopping center in that corner. Now it's called B&B Tavern.
Okay.
I believe back in 2018 it was a different restaurant.
So we've been Publix. That there's like a Publix in there,
Yeah, I'm really not familiar with that area.
and
so-
then literally across the street is the Free Home precinct that we've been talking about in this case, where Detective Hayes did most of the investigation.
I did not look at the relative. Again, I just looked at the phone's location.
Did you look up what this place used to be back in 2018?
I think I did.
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak, but it was a different restaurant.
All right.
I believe.
Could it have been Catch 22?
I believe so.
Catch 22. All right, so we've now seen somewhere in one of the text messages, which I know you've not been in here for this entire trial, but you have been through a lot of text messages. And I believe in this report it mentioned earlier in the day that maybe Scott and Melody were going to go to Catch 22.
Yes, around lunch, I believe.
All right, so this is where Catch 22 was in 2018.
I believe that is correct.
Okay, so did you ever review, did you know Gary was there? Did you ever extract any photo information from security cameras or extract any data about his credit card use or anything like that for Catch 22?
I did not.
Okay. Meaning there was a possibility that he could have had dinner with somebody and we have no idea who that was.
I can only speak to the location of the device during that time based upon my analysis.
Device at restaurant. Okay. And so we think he left the restaurant about 9:26.
And it looks to be still in the area of the restaurant at that time, but the next data point is 9:32, and it is away.
Okay, so sometime between 9:26 and 9:32, we can reasonably extrapolate that he left Catch 22 restaurant.
Again, the device.
The device left. Okay. All right, then you have Gary's Gmail location back at the house with, this is a law, you didn't write it down because you wrote it on other ones, but how many meters of certainty is this?
I would have to look back at the raw record, but you know, it's within
Did
that.
you bring your raw record?
I have a copy.
Could you look?
Sure.
Thanks.
So this is 9:34 on July 3rd. So this is a 29 meter certainty.
Okay. How many feet is in a meter?
I think it's around 3.3.
3.3. So then how many feet would this be?
29 times 3.3. Thank you.
And I'm sorry that we're having to do this, but at the end of the day, this trial is in Cherokee County, Georgia, and we're not on the metric system here. So I'm just trying to maybe
Sure.
help explain to the
Trust
jury.
me, the records in the format say
Sure,
come.
absolutely.
95.7 feet approximately.
So from the center of that circle, 95.7 feet, so almost 100 feet. That's what that is from the center of that circle,
Correct.
in every direction.
Correct.
Okay. So that phone could be anywhere in the middle of that circle.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about this. So why do these certainty levels, they bubble up and then they get small. They bubble up and then they get small. Can you explain that to me?
I cannot speak to the technology of Google. And again,
And that's fine. I was wondering if you knew the answer to that or not.
I can, that would be a Google engineer question.
Okay. So then we move off, and I think, Miss Frankish did a great job of kind of drawing the pies coming off of the cell phone tower. And that's older science. That's been around for quite a while, yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then we move forward in time to 5:52 a.m. Gary's phone geofence location.
Correct.
All right. So I wanted to. You didn't simultaneously do any dots. That's what I call them, dots. But you didn't do any of your circles for the Wi-Fi at that time. Is there any reason for that?
Where are we speaking? Are you talking
You
about
know,
552?
After Gary got back from the restaurant, which none of us knew anything about until pretty much yesterday, could you... Okay, I'm just going to show you
Sure.
what I came up with. I followed your instructions. And we've made our own maps based on your instructions of the latitude and the longitude and then the map display radius zone.
Sure.
So I'm going to show you what is marked as Defense Exhibit Harris 1. All right, so this is the same time period with latitude and longitude, which is marked within, I believe you said phase 3
Of the geofence.
of the geofence. So we're back in the geofence.
Okay.
And there's different measures, of course, Wi-Fi and GPS, and then there's another measure within the geofence.
Cell network.
So, and I don't think we had any of that for Gary, yes? Or no? And I can give it back to you so you can explain it to me.
If you're talking about in the geofence, but I do have them in the Google return.
Right, but in the geo.
Sure, I'll take a look. I do not see any source of cell.
Okay, no source of cell. So these Wi-Fi pings, could you go look at the time period for 12:49 a.m. and 1:09 a.m. and 2 a.m. and 2:12 a.m. on 7/4/2018? So you could tell me how big the radius is on that.
So, am I doing 12:49 through 1:09?
I believe that's the data point. Just that general area, so you could tell me how big that radius is in my picture.
12:49, the radius is 28 meters.
Okay.
1:09, 28 meters. 2 o'clock a.m., 28 meters. 2 o'clock again, 28 meters. 2:12, 28 meters.
Okay. So next I'm going to show you Harris 2. Defense 2. This would be 1:21 and 31 seconds in the morning on the morning of the 4th. Where does it show Gary's phone?
1:20. Yeah.
And I want you to and make sure, check my work. The longitude and the latitude dot and the radius that it says.
1:21 a.m. on 7/4. I don't show a record here.
All right, how about I approach with one where we've specifically got Wi-Fi pings?
So this goes 1:09 to 2
Okay.
2 a.m.
All right. Okay. Well, then don't check my work. But in this image, this is a very broad circle, yes?
Relatively.
Okay, and so Wi-Fi, tell me how Wi-Fi works versus GPS.
Again, I cannot speak to the engineering on how it's calculated. My common knowledge would be distance to the router, but I understand things can interfere with that as well, so I really can't speak to how it's calculated.
Okay, so you just don't know.
No, sir, I just analyze the records that are given to me.
All right, but this geo coordinate is somewhere out, and it would include in this picture the barn and the pasture out near the road. Is that true?
That's what it appears, yes.
Okay. So my question kind of goes back to you as to why you would not use any of the Wi-Fi coordinates, because then they can get really large here.
Sure. I did use some Wi-Fi. We showed that in the restaurant.
That one.
Yeah, and to me, it didn't, the source doesn't matter. I mapped all locations. Now, for the simplicity of the presentation, to not make the map very convoluted, so this large section that you're showing here, this large circle, that would have all been purple. But within that purple area are all the little points.
All the little points.
Correct. During the same time frame, right? So within that large area are the little areas as well. So,
but what I'm saying is there's different means. You're trying to use Google in a way, and you're not an expert in Google. You're trying to use Google to pinpoint where a phone was and a time it was, but you're kind of saying, don't worry about this Wi-Fi stuff. Don't worry about the cell phone stuff. We're going to focus on this one because I like this one the best. I think it's the best.
That's actually not accurate. I mapped all of it, and what you saw in the presentation was the precision location that gives us a better idea of the actual trail. Like a cell tower, we know those are large, much larger areas. we can't get certainty. But when you have, within the same time frames, when you have smaller certainty within that large area, it's more precise.
Okay, so I checked your work too. I tried.
Okay.
And so here we are. Your dots, your dots, your dots. Back to a bigger circle. No explanation as to why. We did the same kind of thing you did, following the radiuses there. And then you got him back out here somewhere. The phone is in the woods on the other side. The jury's been there now, so they've seen this property. This looks like it's almost on the property next door, because there's a driveway down through here. What's your explanation for that?
Of where the location of the phone
Yes.
is?
And then that's where the phone just kind of, I guess the battery dies.
So I will say on this map that you created, did
Well,
you,
I can go back to your image.
okay. We can show them the same because Google Earth does show a little bit different.
I'll go back to your image if I can figure out how to get there.
Right.
This one right here?
Right. Correct.
Okay.
So this is a much greater bird's eye view from the image you just showed me. As you can see, it does still touch part of the house, or could be, or a driveway. It's
Well, the
not merely
jury's
wooded.
been there now, and have you been out at the property
I
by
have
the way?
not.
Okay. So this is out kind of in the driveway, in the woods. Chicken coop appears to be right there, but it's not in the house, right?
I cannot say what that little sliver that it is touching is.
Do you have any clue where Gary's phone was found in this case?
I do not.
Okay. So, I mean, you went through, and by the way, I want to talk about all these phone calls, your data. So all your data extraction. Here's what I want to know. They talked on the phone a lot, yes?
Yes.
I mean, you do a lot of phone extractions, yes?
Yes.
Or you used to, at least back in
The
2018.
physical extraction?
Yes. Not now, but
Not
back
anymore.
before you were a commander.
Previously, yes.
Sure. Back then in 2018.
I did not extract devices.
Okay. But you've done a lot of this work, right? Because I believe
Analysis.
you've been qualified as an expert.
Absolutely, in analysis, I have done a lot of this work.
All right. So this is a lot of phone calls, yes? Between two individuals over a 6-month period? 3,478 phone calls, yes?
That is the total.
Like, more than the average person would call somebody, yes?
I don't know what the average person calls and texts. I mean, this is total communication too. So
I mean, how many phone calls a day does that average out over 6 months? You got a calculator, you can do it.
can you tell me how many days are in 6 months?
What's that?
How many days are in 6 months?
Oh, I don't know. 365 divided by 2, I guess.
What, these months?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so I'm never in exacts.
Okay.
That's why I became a lawyer.
Okay, we're gonna say there's 82.5 days,
Okay.
and you want to know how many calls that comes out to?
Yeah.
Over 42 calls a day, or contacts a day.
You said contacts. So
Could
that's
be.
text messages. Okay. So that's not just phone calls.
Correct.
Okay. Contacts. That's 42 contacts a day. That's a lot of contacts, yes?
Depends what your definition is of
Okay.
call. I mean,
I'll let the jury decide that
Okay.
one. But they had a lot of contact. They still had contacts between 11 and 3 a.m. 18 of those in just this period.
correct.
You didn't go back into 2014 when they met
I don't have records.
or when
for
they
that.
started dating.
I didn't have records for that
Okay.
time.
Did you look?
For records,
Yeah.
I used the records that were given to me.
Okay. Did you go back into 2017? Could you have? I mean, it looks like you did for some of this stuff.
The records that were given to me, I believe, went back to July 2017.
Right, but you only did 6 months. You didn't do the full year. Why?
I felt 6 months was a far enough range of data.
Okay. Melody and Rusty communication by hour of day, 6-month time span. You know, got to get these. What are the number of rate? You got 295, 240. What do these numbers mean?
That's the number of contacts.
On average for that time of day,
That's the exact number of contacts at those specific times.
when you take all the contacts across 6 months, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, How did you add all this up? Did you do it with a calculator? What did you do?
So again, we use PenLink, a software, and ingest the records in. And in there, I'm able to use statistical reports to say, I'm interested in breakdown by day a week, by hour of day. So it helps me with this type of analysis for large amounts of data.
Again, you do not work for PenLink, correct?
I do not.
And you're not an expert in PenLink.
I am not an expert in PenLink.
It's just a software. You hit download and it spits out this report. Yes?
I created the report within the software. It doesn't just spit it out for me. I have to give it parameters. I have to give it date ranges. I have to choose my phone number.
Right, but you put it in and it made this report, not you.
The software.
The software.
Absolutely.
That's what the software.
It reads the records and produces these numbers.
Right. You didn't sit here and you didn't draw this out. It did. The software.
Right, the software.
Okay. So let me get this correct. You did not do a geofence on Scott's phone.
A geofence was for the specified area in the geographic region, and 3 devices returned within that geofence.
So by no fault of your own, there was no geofence data on Scott.
Correct. He did not return within the virtual fence.
Right.
His telephone.
Because you're talking about a Google geofence,
That's
right?
correct.
So could it be that his phone wasn't a Google phone?
That is correct. He had an iPhone.
Right. So then it wouldn't be within that fence, right?
There's Google applications that could still be running on an Apple phone, but there was no return for the specified date and time within that geographic location that returned Scott's device.
But y'all could have gone out and looked for stuff like that for his device. There's different geofences used by different companies.
Yes, sir. And we didn't need to do a geofence because we knew his phone number, so records were obtained for his device.
But you don't have that very tight location like you do for Gary's phone. Wouldn't that have been helpful?
That really would be helpful.
Okay. And or Melody's phone. You don't have that kind of information.
Just cell site location. And that, again, based upon factors of the device, of location services, and we were able to get cell tower information on one of the devices.
Okay. But you had these phones, you did dumps, you were looking into them, and you could have said, all right, well, this phone uses Yahoo Maps a lot. You could probably have gotten from Yahoo a geofence, yes?
I don't know what companies do geofences. Google is the most common that is used.
Okay. But it's a step that you could have taken. You could have gone another step further and looked into these apps to get more information on the phone of Scott Farris and Melody Farris and where they were. Yes?
Well, my role in this is, again, when records are obtained, I analyze them. So I'm not the one out there creating the search warrants and fetching the data. I analyze the records that are maintained or obtained.
Okay, so those records were never given to you, yes?
Correct.
Correct. But it would have been possible with those phones and those applications that more data could have been gathered to give to you to analyze, yes?
So specifically, like you said, Yahoo, I'm not familiar of a geofence of any other company.
I'm just using that as an example.
Okay. I am only familiar with Google geofences.
Like DoorDash. I like DoorDash, right? So DoorDash probably has a geofence at this point, I imagine. You could use something like that.
I am unfamiliar with any DoorDash geofence.
Okay. Are you aware that in 2023, Google discontinued this service? Are you aware of that?
I do know there was talks about them encrypting their data.
Okay. And making it so that you had to get it from the phone and not from them. Yes?
I did. I read articles about that.
All right. So now you can't do it this way anymore in the year 2024 the way you did it back in 2018.
I don't know if it is officially gone yet, but I did hear that Google will be encrypting their data based upon the size of storage they were paying.
I want to talk briefly about the activity. Going back to 9/7, 9/30, this was when Melody was at the Hedonism Resort.
That's when the device connected to a Wi-Fi in the name of hedonism.
Okay. And then on 9/30, she was in Nashville, Tennessee.
Based upon the sequence of events in the device, it appears she traveled to Nashville.
I believe you mentioned something about a baby shower.
Yes, it appeared the following day was a baby shower.
Right. Emily was having a baby around that time. They were in town for a baby shower, I guess, right?
It appears so.
Okay. And then 7/3, obviously the date of this case, right?
The date of interest, yes.
Date of interest, yes. All right, so you're telling me that there's more activity at the hedonism resort and then at a baby shower event than when y'all are alleging that she somehow killed Gary and drug his body to a burn pile and burned him. You're telling me there's more activity on these other dates than those dates?
So what's interesting about the September 7th, 2017 date is there was, again, no activity on the phone for days prior. And then when the phone connects to Wi-Fi, there is a large amount of activity that is dumped during this hour. So again, I cannot speak.
So then that would make this to be some kind of a misnomer on your graph.
I can speak to the records that were given.
Okay,
So the
all right.
records were given in the exact.
Well, then how about
hour.
9:30? How about 9:30 then? Let's talk about the baby shower.
Oh, okay, absolutely, yes. That activity was heightened on that date during this hour.
Okay. More than 7:3.
Absolutely. All I can speak to is the sequence of events in the phone again. There was text messages back and forth between her and Amanda coordinating possibly going out in Nashville.
That's all I have, Judge.
All right, we ready?
During the time that Gary's device location changes at 7:58 a.m. to 9:05 a.m., moving from the woods to the left of the home into the home, was Scott's device in the location of the house at this time?
No.
Where was the location of Scott's device?
In the northern area near Lake Lanier.
Like Forsyth County, like North Forsyth County, Dawson County area?
Yeah.
That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
All right, anything else?
No follow-up.
All right, you can sit down. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.